I don't often come on here and do a live, but the last couple of days have hit really, really hard. And I feel like I know that I was a new ager. I know that I was in the occult. I know that there is a darkness that is permeating society in seemingly innocent things. And that's actually what I want to talk about today. Like, how did we get to this point where someone thinks that it is okay to shoot someone, snuff out his life because they disagree with the truth of what he was saying? The truth. He always had facts to back him up. How is that okay? And I'll tell you what I've noticed. I've noticed that every time I turn on my television or I listen to the radio, there is a rhetoric or an undercurrent, and actually it's not even an undercurrent anymore. It is blatant profanity, disrespect and disregard for human life, and a tone of vengeance, of taking things into your own hands, and that life is no longer important. And that's how we got here, because we're seeing it all the time. Every time you flip on a movie on Netflix or a series on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever it is that you're watching, there is swearing, F-bombs being dropped left, right, and center. So people are desensitized to the fact that profanity is foul. And last night, my husband and I started watching something, and I could not get over the fact that every second word was an F-bomb. And I said, honey, like, what are we watching? Why are we allowing this into our lives? Why are we consuming? And, we pay for these things, right? You pay for your subscription. Why are we paying to be brainwashed and desensitized to what is ugly, what glorifies evil? That's it. Bottom line, it glorifies evil, because the world is as black and white as that. If it is not what Jesus would do, it is evil. So what would Jesus do? That's what I always want to ask. And that's what I asked my husband. I said, honey, can you actually see Jesus sitting down and watching this, where people are getting beheaded, where there are F-bombs being dropped left, right, and center, and it's all about cartels and whatever, and narcotics and profanity, and every second word is an F-bomb, and then they sometimes splice the F-bomb in with taking the Lord's name in vain? It's wrong, you guys. It's wrong. And it's time to call it out for what it is, because this is why we're here. This is how we got here. We've been passive. We've just said, oh, it's just entertainment. It's not a big deal. It's not. There is a demonic, dark agenda underpinning all of this. And it's time for us to start voting with our feet. We no longer pay for things like that. We are not subscribing to things like that. We're going to pay for things that amplify light and goodness and the power of God, not the power of the enemy. So I got out of the car because it was getting really, really hot in there. And I just wanted to wrap up with this one final thought, right? One, we need to really be mindful of what it is that we're consuming, and that we are not subscribers to evil, right? Because that's the problem, right? That's one of the main problems. And two, we really need to fix our eyes on Jesus and who he is and his love, right? And love doesn't mean that he allows everything, that he allows perversion and depravity and he gets us, because that was a campaign a couple of years ago during the Super Bowl that I couldn't quite understand. I was like, he might get us, but he doesn't condone sin. He forgives us. He gives us grace. He allows us to transform and turn from our sin. And that's what this moment in time is about. It is a turning point. It is a time for us to no longer be complicit with evil, because I don't know if you guys remember the very first deception that happened in the Bible, in the garden, was where Satan told Eve, are you sure God said that? Are you sure God said it was evil? You sure he said it was a bad idea? And that's where we're at right now. We're questioning what God has decided is good versus evil, right? And we're like, it's not so bad. We're making accommodations, concessions. We are becoming complicit, because by our silence and by our passive engagement, our passivity, we are becoming complicit in evil. And it needs to end now. So that's what I'm hoping this moment in time is about. Yes, we have lost a warrior. And it hurts. It really, really hurts. I spent the last 2 days very upset, right? Very, very upset, because Charlie was someone that I would listen to, because I know if I wanted to get the truth, I can listen to him, right? Because I know that he was researching everything to death. And if you want the truth and you don't want to delude yourselves, because that's what has been going on with the world right now. There's a lot of delusion out there, and they silenced him because they couldn't handle that he was calling out delusion, right? And he was doing it in such a kind, respectful way. I know people say he was full of hate. I never saw that side of him. I never saw any hate. I just saw him stating facts. And I think that's the problem. You know that expression, you can't handle the truth? There are a bunch of people on this planet who simply cannot handle the truth. They don't want to hear it, and they want to silence anyone who comes up with it. So let's just get back to what's real, what's true, and let's focus on whatever is lovely, whatever is noble, whatever is excellent, whatever is praiseworthy, which is what the Bible tells us to do. That's where we're supposed to be fixing our eyes. And you know who is the most lovely, noble, excellent, and praiseworthy of us all? Jesus. So stay focused, fix your eyes on Jesus, fix your eyes on whatever is noble and lovely and excellent and true.